No red flag warnings in the area, but firefighters say the gusty winds, the dry fuels really making this firefight challenging. So what are the conditions now?
So the reason why we don't have a red flag warning today is because of humidity. It's a lot higher this afternoon, low 15% to meet red flag criteria. Gusts have been up to about 30 miles per hour in the area. They've been kind of swinging between a southeasterly flow and a southwesterly flow this afternoon. Most recent wind gusts up to 16 miles per hour. And so for the rest of this evening, I do expect to see gusts as high as 30 miles per hour in eastern Fremont County, but through the night they are going to calm down quite a bit. So once we get past, I would say 7 to 8 o'clock, things will be calming down significantly. There are a couple red flag warnings in the state today, but that's for Chaffee and Lake County. The rest of us are feeling a lot cooler and higher humidity thanks to a cold front that came in last night. But it's up into those interior mountains that cold front did not reach. So we're only at 5% humidity in Salida and Saguache this afternoon. Across the region, the hot spot right now is Salida at 89. The rest of us have seen a 15 to 20 degree temperature drop. We're sitting in the 70s and 80s right now. It's been a lot cooler today. Remember this time yesterday, La Junta was in the triple digits. Now it's cool 85 degrees in comparison. We've got 24% humidity. That's an improvement, but it's still a bit breezy this afternoon, very similar to yesterday. Although we have a southeasterly wind today, it's sustained around 21 miles per hour in La Junta, so definitely a breezy afternoon. And as I mentioned, a lot cooler. We're about 10 to 20 degrees cooler compared to this time yesterday. Remember, Pueblo reached a high of 106 yesterday. That was a record. And Colorado Springs reached a high of 99 yesterday, also a record. So now 70s and 80s don't feel so bad. We're still quite warm though in our interior mountains, where the cold front that cooled us down today didn't quite make it over multiple mountain ranges. So that's why areas like Salida are a little bit warmer than the eastern plains. For tonight, most of us will drop to the 50s. We'll have some 40s as well. Nice crisp start to the day tomorrow, but then a very quick warm up, and it will overall be hotter tomorrow afternoon. For Friday, Juneteenth, we've got 80s and 90s on the board. No triple digits. That could change though by Saturday. Something interesting is going to set up in the next couple of days called a dry line, where we have really dry air coming in from the west that's going to meet up with humid air from the east. And where that boundary of dry and moist air sets up is where we could see storms fire up tomorrow and Saturday. So for Friday, maybe a few spot showers for the mountains and I-25, but they would be really short-lived. There's overall a better chance of storms in the eastern plains, where we have that dry line feature. So that's something to watch for on Friday afternoon. They'll definitely be hit or miss, so don't count on it, but don't be surprised if you do see a storm, especially east of I-25. So Saturday, starting off the weekend, still pretty hot, 80s, 90s, and triple digits, and that dry air makes an even further eastward push, so we have fire concerns for Saturday afternoon. But as we head, are better today versus yesterday for firefighting, and that's because our humidity has climbed quite a bit. Right now, it's 24% humidity near a weather station near the fire, 78 degrees, and still breezy at times for sure. Winds recently gusting out of the southeast around 16 miles per hour. I've seen wind gusts today in this area between about 15 to 30 miles per hour. So the wind definitely plays a factor in the fire crews and where they're going to make their boundaries and where they're going to be watching. Now, the good news for this evening, the wind is going to be easing up for the next couple of hours, and overnight it should be pretty calm. And plus, that humidity is already higher today. It will just remain even higher overnight. Reason why we have better humidity today is we had a cold front move in last night. Look at where this cold front did not impact. Salida's only 5% humidity right now, so that's why I'm grateful we don't have the conditions that we had yesterday. So right now, most of us are in the 70s and 80s. Tonight, we'll drop to the 40s and 50s.
Alex, thank you.
It was about 20 degrees cooler compared to yesterday, where we had record heat. Yesterday's high was 99 in Colorado Springs, and today 78. That was below our average of 83, so quite the cool down. Pueblo, yesterday you were at 106, 86 today, 4 degrees below the average of 90. So this was a nice change. Cold front moved through the plains last night and left the lower elevations a lot cooler today. Right now we're in the 70s and 80s. That cold front didn't quite make it as far west as Salida. So watch, that's where we have some of the warmest temperatures today in our interior mountain valleys. For tonight, we're going to drop to the 40s and 50s. Nice, cool start to the day tomorrow. But unfortunately, the heat is returning. Our temperatures will be climbing above average on Friday afternoon. We're back to the 80s and 90s across the entire region. We're going to have a lot of sunshine on Friday, and most of the region is going to be dry. Saturday, also getting even hotter with 80s, 90s, and couple triple digits. A slightly better chance of a few storms in the eastern plains on Saturday afternoon. You can kind of see the blobs of the cooler temperatures on the map. So let me tell you what's going on in terms of the thunderstorm chances in the next few days. So this is our future dew point map. Dew point is a measure of how much water vapor we have in the atmosphere. We're going to start to get some dry air push in from the west and some moist air push in from the east. Where those boundaries come together, we'll see a dry line setting up, and that is a good zone for storms to form in the afternoon hours. So this is going to be especially apparent on Saturday with dew points in the 50s in the plains, as opposed to dew points in the teens and 20s for I-25 and the mountains. So that's where I'm going to watch for storm initiation, but where we have that dry section, I'm concerned about fire danger. So fire weather watches have been issued for Saturday afternoon, where we have some of those really low dew points. That's going to pair with gusty wind and critical fuel moisture to increase our fire danger. But there is that chance of a few storms as well. So on Friday, as that dry line feature is starting to set up, we could see a few showers for the foothills and I-25, but most of the activity would be in the eastern plains with a few very spotty thunderstorms. Saturday, better dry line boundary leads to stronger storms. So any storms that form along that boundary could have a severe thunderstorm warning on them, and then they'll push east into Kansas with the dry line as it retreats eastward at night. So in general, this fire started yesterday, but I will say the fire weather conditions were much worse yesterday. Our humidity values were in the single digits. It was a lot windier and it was a lot warmer. So there is some improvement in the fire weather today. Our humidity has risen. It's at 24% now near the fire. It's 79 degrees currently. We've got an east-southeast wind that has recently gusted to 17 miles per hour. Something tricky that the firefighters have been dealing with today is winds have been out of the southeast as well as the southwest at times. So that shifting wind direction obviously provides a bit of a tricky firefight. Good news for this evening is the wind is going to be lightening up and it's going to be almost calm overnight, and plus that humidity will see some good recovery overnight as well. And let me just go to show you an example of why I'm happy this humidity is higher today, because we had a cold front move in yesterday evening and we have most of our humidity 20 to 30% right now, but that cold front did not make it to Salida where it's only 6% humidity, so at least we have slightly better conditions today. Diane. Yesterday evening and chatting with Brooke about her plans for Father's Day and going on a hike in the morning. So I've got you covered. Let's go straight to Sunday's forecast and we'll talk about the different regions in Colorado. So for the mountains, pretty much anywhere you're at, we'll have a beautiful Sunday. In the morning, expect 40s and 50s, 70s and 80s by the afternoon, and we'll be mostly dry in the higher elevations. For I-25 and the urban corridor, we'll start in the 50s, we'll rise to the 80s. There's an isolated afternoon thunderstorm chance on Sunday, especially favoring areas further north. In the plains, we'll start in the 50s and 60s on Sunday morning. We'll rise to the 80s and 90s, and there will likely be a few spotty afternoon and evening thunderstorms because I am tracking a cold front coming in Sunday night. But up until then, we are on a warming trend here in southern Colorado. So let's take it back to tonight, and I'll help you plan the next couple of days. So for overnight lows, we're going to drop to the 40s and 50s. Actually, a pretty comfortable start to the day on Friday, but by Friday afternoon, we're rising above average. Our high temperatures will be to the 80s and 90s, about 5 degrees above average, and we're getting even warmer on Saturday, 80s, 90s, and probably a couple triple digits sneaking in there. Something I'm going to be watching very closely in the next couple of days is this battle between dry air and more moist air. So we'll have moisture out east, and out west we'll have dry air. So on Friday, we're starting to see this gradient with dew points only in the teens and 20s in the mountains, 50s and 60s in the plains. And this gradient becomes sharper on Sunday. We'll have teens and 20s for I-25, but just east of there, 40, 50 degree dew points. That means we're going to have something set up called a dry line. And when storms initiate on this boundary of air masses, they can be pretty strong. So on the west side, the dry side, I am concerned about fire danger coming back on Saturday. So fire weather watches are in place for Saturday afternoon. It'll be gusty, it'll be dry, and our fuels are also critically dry in these zones. On Friday, as we're starting to see this dry line setting up, could have a few spotty showers in the foothills and I-25, but they're going to be very brief and short-lived. Better chance of an actual thunderstorm in the eastern plains on Friday afternoon. On Saturday, that sharper dry line boundary leads to potentially cooler today. Remember yesterday in Colorado Springs, it was 99 degrees, blowing away the old record. And today, 79 felt really nice, and it was below our average high of 83. In Pueblo, yesterday you reached 106, blew away the record yesterday as well. And today, a nice 87. And that was also a few degrees below average. So this evening, it's still comfortable. We're in the upper 50s to low 70s across southern Colorado. Definitely starting to cool off. Our overnight lows will be cool, 40s and 50s for us. And so it should be a great morning to get out early for a walk. But we are going to start to heat right back up tomorrow. We'll be rising above average. I've got us to 89 in Colorado Springs. Lots of sunshine, a few more clouds in the afternoon, and maybe even a spot shower. Same for Pueblo tomorrow, up to 94, just a few degrees above average. Across Colorado Springs, as seen from the top of Cheyenne Mountain. Looks like the trees are blowing in the wind a little bit. Overall, I expect any lingering breezes to calm down overnight, and the wind should actually remain pretty light tomorrow. It was a bit of a breezy day. It was also cooler for most of us after a cold front that we were tracking last night on News 5 at 10. So for this evening, a pretty comfortable, nice cool start to the day to the 40s and 50s. And then Friday afternoon becomes hot again. We'll be about 5 degrees above average with 80s and 90s across the region for Friday, Juneteenth. And then on Saturday, we're getting even hotter. So June 20th will be 80s, 90s, maybe a couple triple digits. So we're back to the heat as we head into our last days of spring. Summer solstice, of course, is on Sunday. That's Father's Day. And what I'm going to be tracking as we head through the next few days is this collision of two different types of air in Colorado. We'll have the dry air out west and moist air out east. And so the gradient will tighten between these two boundaries, and this is where I'm going to be watching for thunderstorms to initiate on. So for Friday, we've got the very dry air in the mountains with the better humidity in the plains. But then watch on Saturday as this gradient tightens. We'll have dew points in the teens and 20s for I-25, but very closely into the eastern plains, we'll have 40, 50-degree dew points. And so this boundary of air masses will be a trigger point for thunderstorms to form as we progress into the next couple of days. But on the dry side of that section on Saturday, we're going to have fire danger. So we have fire weather watches in place for Saturday afternoon. Just depending on where that dry line sets up is where those will turn into red flag warnings. On Friday, because that gradient isn't as tight, we're likely to see a few widely scattered isolated showers and storms for the mountains in I-25. They're going to be very short-lived and pretty weak, but better moisture in the eastern plains will lead to a couple of stronger storms for the evening. But then watch on Saturday. Most of us are going to stay dry, but along that boundary there, we're going to have a couple of stronger storms form, and we're likely even to have some severe weather with hail and strong wind gusts on Saturday night, but that should be remaining east of I-25.